All right, guys, Squadron 42, 2026. Not too sure about that, but I could be wrong. Hope I am at this stage because Star Citizen's in a pretty bad state, right? Anyway, welcome to the video. Okay, guys, so before we get into the whole core content of the Squadron 42 discussion, I just want to play this.
Is Star Citizen dying again? Is there like any worry for you, short, medium term, for this game right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Any worry that is actually dying? I mean, I think I've probably said this every time I've come on the podcast. I think the health of the project at this point is completely tied up in Squadron 42.
Okay, guys, so I'm an optimist. I like Star Citizen a lot, but £10.42 kind of got it wrong. So with the amount of positions that are currently available in Manchester, yes, Squadron 42's head office, we can see there are a huge amount of senior positions available. Now, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. If you pay properly, these positions get filled extremely quickly. So I've been speaking with a developer of 33 years behind him recently. He is actually thinking about doing just a short-term contract in one of the lead positions get some experience working with CIG to get back to me after he finishes his contract, about 6-month contract. So that's going to be an interesting conversation to have in coming weeks and months. But for now, looking at all of these positions that are available for senior management positions, most importantly, 67 of them, there is a massive skill shortage in Manchester. So when we're looking at senior dialogue designers, senior environmental artists, senior, they have a massive skill shortage. And that means that Squadron 42's not got all of the talent focused on it, does it? So where are we with this? Star Citizen is an absolute mess. Nothing works. There is a massive showing of huge gaps in skill and experience and qualifications already on Star Citizen's development. Manchester Squadron 42 itself is in this state, with no one leading the show. And Erin Roberts.
Squadron is not coming out until it's literally the perfect game. I mean, this for me is, I'm getting old in the tooth here, and this is my, this is probably the last thing I probably will work on, and I know, people like Chris and other people feel the same. Is when we do this, it's going to be absolutely amazing, and so if it's not right, then we're going to make sure it's right. We're not here to make something average. If it's not amazing, then it's not coming out of the studio.
I can't say it better.
All right, so saying that's fantastic and awesome and wonderful, right? So please explain the next part of the video, Erin, because your staff are telling us that the game was ready 5 years ago. It hasn't taken you 5 years to implement Vulkan and ray tracing and path tracing, and that hasn't. The investors came in, had a bitch and whinge because they didn't know how to control ships and effed everything up. We're getting to that part later on in the video, but just this short clip now, just watch this bit. The game was ready 5 years ago, guys. Squadron 42 itself. It was ready to be shipped. So let's say 4.5 years ago, the game was ready to be shipped. Just after CitizenCon. Yeah, 2019, guys. Funny that, isn't it? Anyway, continue watching.
All right, so now, last but certainly not least, on our extra long, extra length, supersized, calling all devs, all about Squadron 42. We can't talk Squadron 42 without calling up my good friend, or at least I think his friend, we're going to find out. Nate Dearsley, Squadron 42 art director. Nate, how you doing?
That was amazing. You got to keep that in.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
Apart from trying to have a cup of tea, I'm good.
Yeah. What you didn't see is he was literally about to... Yeah, okay. So, we're leaving it in. It's raw. It's real. Nate, how you doing? You're the art director for Squadron 42. How you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, mate. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a long road putting this show together, but we're here at the end now. I want to ask you a couple questions. The last big update we had about Squadron 42 was that visual update that we put out in December, on or about Christmas. What's the story behind that? Because I know that didn't come around as a marketing thing we wanted to put out to the community. How did that come about?
I wanted to do something that sort of, push the envelope a little bit more as a closeout for the year, so everyone can go home from the Christmas holidays and be motivated about kind of coming back in the new year. It's been a tough one, and so I went through the year of data, the year of visuals, collated all that information, and pretty much kind of cut it all together into like one edited video to show to the entire company, internally only at that point. I think the original video was just over 10 minutes long. There was an awful lot of content.
Yeah.
Like it had characters in it, it had lots more cinematics and everything. And then, of course, it's funny because I showed it and everyone was quite silent in the meeting. I was like, oh, there we are then. And then I get the email from Chris. Hey man, like this was really cool. We should totally do something with this. We should show our backers it. And then long story short, we just basically went through all of that footage, removed anything that was too spoilery, because obviously with it being a narrative driven game, it's very hard to show content to the outside world without spoiling certain characters, without spoiling certain story moments. And
that's been a theme of this episode so far, is the spoiler.
Right. Yeah, I mean everything's quite sensitive. Like there's not really much that goes on in the story that would give stuff away, if that makes sense. So for example, if we just showed you one character, you just go, okay, I get it. Like I know who he is in the script, and I'll just ruin it for you. So yeah, want to avoid that. So yeah, and that's how we kind of ended up with that. Basically like show and tell. Like it's certainly not finished, it's not polished. I'd say visual quality wise we're probably about 40% in that video. There's still a lot to do visually, but yeah, I think it's coming together, and it was really nice actually seeing the video where it shows how, I guess, sort of like diverse the locations are. Like the game's not going to suffer with visual fatigue in the slightest. It's one of the key things I wanted to avoid. So yeah.
Cool. Now we showed that then. How have things progressed since? I know it's only been by the time this airs, it's only been about 2 months, maybe 3 months since the visual update went out. How are things progressing visually for Squadron 42 in general?
So visually, it's pretty much we're on a curve up. Game devs kind of, if I just draw a curve, it's kind of like this for a long time, and at the end of the process it goes straight up to the top, so it's not a linear curve, but I think we're just approaching that kind of crest now. But yeah, we've sort of come in the new year. It's always nice to kind of get that break and then just really sort of resurvey like how the team's operating and how the teams are split up and what are they focusing on. We have our internal reviews as well, so it's a good time for us all to sort of speak about the project, get a lot of stuff out in the open, and just really kind of work on that feedback as a team. But as for the game as a whole, like it's genuinely like really beginning to come together now. Like we had Chris here week before last, and it was really refreshing to be able to sit down in what was a 6-hour review at the end of it. The game, okay, it crashed once. That's sort of unheard of at this point in dev, and pretty much everything was beginning to work. One of the most technical aspects of the game was running, and people were doing their things, NPCs were doing their things, you could speak to people, have conversations with people, you were in the Idris floating around this system and looking outside at the epic view, and when you see these little nuggets kind of coming in, it's really sort of helpful and really motivational. So yeah, visually it's just sort of like continue to grow on that momentum now. Obviously we've got planet-side locations in development, we've got stations in development, ships, other ships from other races which I won't go into, all sorts, a bit of everything. And part of that kind of like the review process is also always trying to find it's really trying to make the most of people's passion. So I'd never want, someone on the team to be working on something that they don't want to work on, if that makes sense. You're not going to get much out of them. So yeah, that's generally what's been happening. And of course, dare I say it, there's a lot of cool stuff being put together for a certain show at the end of the year. So yeah.
I don't think we can say that.
Why? Why can't you say that?
We'll see if that stays in the edit or not. All right. So
start again. Start again.
Nope. We won't start. No, we're gonna keep going. All right. So we're off the rails now. All right.
So now you know that the development has been held back. 1. 2, the fact it was ready, let's say 3 years ago, fully polished, ready to go, right? I'm being very fair with this right now as well. To why 3 years have gone by and we've not heard anything. 2 more years go by since, this is me being very generous, with no real updates on Squadron 42 not being released. And why? So to fill in some gaps in between, I'm going to just show you up on the screen now while I talk in the background the whole reason why the Star Citizen / Squadron 42 development split from being in the US and then moving fully into the UK. Part of that was losing very, very key pillar staff, C-level management, but more importantly, it was to help with tax havens and to cut the cost of the single-player development. So the question is, why? Okay, fantastic, good idea, wonderful, but why didn't Star Citizen move over as well? Why is it still in the US? Ask yourself that question. I know the answer, and it's an answer you're not going to want to hear. Chris and Sandy and Erin fell out with the Colders on the board. They had too many differences, too many problems that Sandy caused as well, spending that marketing money, the $75,000 on herself, and it caused a massive rift. Now, the Colders' cousin, who is a solicitor, a big-wig solicitor too, by the way, came in and basically gave Chris and Sandy an ultimatum. They separated, both went to the Cayman Islands to work it out. Yeah, that didn't work out too well. She jumped on a boat with some blonde guy, like, Fabio-looking bloke, and pissed off. Left Chris there for 6 months in the Cayman Islands, not knowing what to do. They had just settled on the mansion in America as well, if you remember. And yeah, he was completely lost. Now, in the 2018 CitizenCon, he was abusing the shit out of Sean Tracy in a pre-recorded part of the show, which wasn't actually in line with what happened at CitizenCon 2018 at all. It was actually outside of the event. He had no ring on his finger. And if you want me to provide that video evidence for you, I'll dig it out and I'll find it and I'll show you on screen in another video. But guys, they separated. It caused a massive rift. Chris then went back to the UK to, I guess, get his feet back on the ground and work out what's going on. Then the Colders brought in Turbulent, and then Turbulent did something to help with the development, right, for Star Citizen. Kind of, not really. They're just someone that the Colders own. But anyway, yeah, and I think the Colders tried to go out on their own and just basically take over Star Citizen and say, look, you guys keep Squadron 42 single player and we'll keep all the profits from Star Citizen using our guys at Turbulent. Yeah, that's not worked out well at all, has it? 2025, the year of improvements and stability. Bullshit. They have cut 2/3 of their staff. That's senior management staff who are actually pillars, people that were competent but had to be paid correctly. And now they've got kids who just don't have the experience, skills, or any of the qualifications required to finish it off. Then that leads us into the server meshing side of things. Now for Squadron 42, that's fine. Squadron 42 will be using static server meshing, no problems at all, won't be an issue. Where it is an issue is Star Citizen. Dynamic server meshing is required for the game to work. And the only way they're going to get that over the line now, after the pillars just recently left, and now we know all that rigmarole why, previous video, after all the cinematic stuff. Yeah, basically they need to bring in AGI now to finish off the dynamic server meshing side of things. That's going to be fun at the end of the year. Anyhow, just bring us back in line. This is the next bit of video is just going to cover Erin Roberts and his kind of personal approach to this and how what he wants is what we're getting. And that's it. Chris has no control over Squadron 42. Not a Sandy. It's all Erin. And look, I understand why Erin's doing this. He wants to actually make something of this mess that the whole development's in. Fair enough. But it does not explain why he let the investors interdict and cause all these problems and say, no, it's too hard to play, change the flight model, make it easier. These are corporate morons. They don't play computer games and never have. So the fact that he let that happen shows his lack of backbone, professional corporate skill set and understanding that he's not there to make the game for them, he's there to make the game for us. But that got lost in translation somewhere along the lines. Anyway, here's the next part of the video explaining all of that. Also going into the new flight mechanics that they are meant to be bringing in, or were meant to be bringing in quite a while back, before 3.2.5, that they still haven't, and that they're now supposedly going to be bringing in soon as well. There is no way that in 2020, what happened could have offset this entire development for another 4 years. Something big's gone down, and now we are seeing the actual real-time results of that. And they're not good, are they? Anyway, enjoy the rest of the video. I'll do a quick wrap up at the end.
In terms of like gameplay side and feature side, we're going to have obviously got a new flight model coming very soon, which is really exciting. It's going to be really cool. It's not only cool because it's just better in terms of just like, for, flight atmosphere and atmosphere and flying through space and so forth, the response, but it's actually, another cool thing is it's a lot faster. So it doesn't, it's very quick, which means that actually it's a big performance win as well. So people should see that when they start looking at stuff, because when you've got a number of especially when you've got a bunch of ships and they're all using a system and that system's expensive, it all multiplies up. And this system's a much quicker and much simpler system. And the great thing about it is it's simpler to use for design as well, to get the work and the changes they want to do out of it as well.
Just so when the roadmap is updated for Q3 and Q4 of 2019, it may seem less aggressive than it has in the past.
Yes, but I think there's loads in there. I mean, I'm not worried about in terms of there'll be lots of cool stuff for people to do. But my feeling is this is something that people should be able to go. I mean, unless we get to the end of Q2 and we take a look at it and go, you know what, actually we need to change direction, do this or change stuff around. I feel very comfortable with that roadmap, because it's basically that was my explicitly wanted to say, let's just get it there, and then like I said, I'd rather surprise people with some new stuff rather than disappoint them by taking stuff out.
Now you mentioned surprising people with stuff. That's a good way to showcase that just because it's not on the roadmap doesn't mean we're not working on it, or that the roadmap is the sum total of what we're working on.
Yes, I mean, there is some stuff we keep off on purpose because we want to surprise people. We like to have one or two little things that go in there. There is a lot of work that's going on behind the scenes, which, exactly as you said, is, like I say, right now, server meshing is a lot of pre-land work is starting, and we'll be working on through the rest of this year, even though it's not showing on this, although it's not showing on the schedule right now.
It's not showing Q4.
It doesn't mean work isn't going on, and it doesn't mean that there might not be some early versions. We may be able to get it some sort of, there's a lot of longer term features that we're working on in terms of optimizations as well, in terms of that kind of stuff, which are going on all the time, which may not show there. And then once we get comfortable that they're coming to fruition, then at that point, we will plug them into the roadmap.
So speaking of shaping ships, let's catch up with Andrew Nicholson and Johnny Josevius in the UK to hear all about the new improvements they've been making on the flight model.
For the upcoming 2.6 patch, we want to start digging into balance on a larger scale than we have done before. Kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit, not too far obviously. So that meant finding out, where do we start? What's the first thing we do? There's always dependencies with everything. So try and find the fundamental thing that we might end up changing that's going to affect a lot of other things. The flight model was that thing. And what we decided, and what we started to do to test it, was to pick one ship. We picked the Gladius. We lowered the SCM speed to try and make combat not really slower, but a little easier to control, and so you're not flying backwards and forth at really high speeds. I mean, the Newtonian physics that we use, the IFCS flight model, is complicated, it's complex, it allows for a lot of depth to the combat, but it's also kind of intimidating, especially when you've got an SCM speed of 350. You've got ships going really fast and a lot of throttle management to do to get decent in combat. So we took the Gladius, we lowered the speeds down to about, I think, 140. I mean, it's like a rough halving of the speeds to see how it would affect gameplay. And then rebalanced a few ships around that. Okay, make everything slower. How does that feel in a dogfight situation? And also, not just speeds-wise, but we sped up the accelerations. So the stop times were lower, which meant there was less slide when it comes to ship maneuverability. It can take a little bit of time to get to top acceleration when you're turning, so that staggers the speeds as well. Makes everything feel heavier, gives the ships more character. But to sort of fill that gap where we've cut into the SCM speeds, we've made some changes to the afterburner. We'll be making further changes to the afterburner, but we wanted to tweak the fuel limits on that so people used it more. The idea that in a combat situation, if you're not moving fast enough or if you need to escape faster, afterburner is what you'd use now, because it should be like something that you don't use all the time, something you use every now and then, that just gets you out of a combat situation if you need to. Afterburner didn't really have that much of a purpose before. Now it does. We set up some tests where all the designers were invited to play test and see what their opinions of it were, and it was mostly positive, say overwhelmingly positive, which has meant we've put together a patch based on the 2.5 build. So it's like an interim patch that includes fixes, rebalancing of the ship speeds. But we'll go out to Evocati for them to play test and give us feedback on that. And eventually more players will get to try it too, if it's favorable. Or, if it's not, we'll still try and make changes based on that too. Ship flight, ship handling is the main fundamental. What we build upon from there is, in ship balancing, will be ship shields, ship health, missiles and weapons. Right now I'm starting to look at weapons, but we've already done a pass, which should be in the Evocati build as well, on shields. And what we did was, we've got some sort of pre-planned numbers, future numbers, where we wanted to take the shields later when they'll be redeveloped and refactored. We sort of ported those into the old system we have with the shields, which should mean we get a little taster of how those shield classes might perform. And I expect there'll be a lot of feedback on that, and there'll be a lot to change. But that's why we did it. It's a good chance for Evocati to get hands on it and go, that's not quite right. And we'll react to that when we can.
So all of the things that we are now getting, new flight model, improvements to shields, weapon systems, the whole rigmarole of what you've heard recently is from 3 years ago. Everything we have now, we should have already had 3 years ago if the development stayed on track. So I don't know where this is going. If Star Citizen's going to make it or not, who knows? But the big question right now is Squadron 42 going to make it still? I believe so. It's just going to be released at the worst possible time possible, where GTA 6 is coming out at the same time. A game that should have come out 3 years ago, fully fleshed out, new graphics, new ray tracing, the whole bit, right? And all the scripting and audio and all that stuff, animations, the whole bit, 3 years ago, has now been delayed 3 more years to now come out in line at exactly the same time as now GTA 6 is. So wouldn't it be more logical to release Squadron 42 in December at Christmas time? Give me your thoughts back in the comments, because I believe for them to offset the GTA 6 massive release, to get Squadron 42 in 6 months earlier, will get enough people involved in the game, have them finish the single player campaign, and then want to buy into Star Citizen, right? And then GTA 6 can come out all it likes. The audience that was going to pick this up will have picked it up already. The numbers we need are going to be there. They're going to be invested already. And if they've already finished the single player campaign and they've bought a ship in Star Citizen, yeah, they'll play some GTA 6. But don't forget, GTA 6 is going to be episodic. So you'll get so much content to play in GTA 6 and then go back to Star Citizen for the next 6-12 months until the next DLC comes out, right? See, that's called logical, professional, corporate business thinking. Projecting your profits ahead of time, looking at release windows, looking at the greatest period of time in which you can gain new players, gain more interest in the project, at the same time send all of the staff back from the UK that remain, from what we've seen in the video so far, not many, back to the US, pay for accommodations, set them up, put them in your offices, and get the game finished. At least to 1.0 standard, right? Destructible environments and all that stuff can wait till 1.1. But yeah, in the meantime, you need to crunch this. You need to strike force teams onto this and get it finished ASAP. And look, Star Citizen 1.0 can be achieved by the end of this year if they put all of their eggs in one basket and set a single homogenized team to strike this, strike that, fix this, fix that, and get it out the door. They can do it. But while you have this rift in the corporate level of the business, lack of senior management staff members as well, C-level staff, senior executives, principal staff for departments, you've got kids flailing around just trying to work it out and do their best. So, you can't blame the kid developers. They're getting paid peanuts, guys. Absolutely almost nothing compared to what the person above them would get paid. And even that person is getting paid almost half of the salary that they should be receiving in a principal role. Then when we come to C-level roles, well, they no longer exist in the company because the money's not there to pay them their salaries, right? Feedback in the comments. Tell me what you think is going to happen by the middle of next year, because Squadron 42 is meant to be coming out middle of next year, and then very shortly after that, Star Citizen 1.0 is also meant to be hitting the ground running. I just don't know. I don't have an answer for you for any of this. I believe Squadron 42 will come out. That shouldn't be a problem. Star Citizen, on the other hand, it's in an extremely bad state. Now, it's been in some pretty shitty states before this, though. I don't think this is something that they prepared for, have a contingency plan for. I think the pillars leaving for the dynamic server meshing management side of things has completely and utterly derailed the entire development now. They're going to have to wait for AGI to come in December-ish, early next year, and employ some people that are AI network specialists in how to roll out AGI even to begin with. That's a very fledgling industry still, yeah? Very, very much in its infancy. So that's going to be a fear, a worry. And then we have the biggest issue of all. Zero trust networking and GPU server implementation and dynamic server meshing getting tested and worked on by someone to get Star Citizen into an actual releasable 1.0 state at that stage, because without it, the entire framework of the development cannot function correctly. You see that on a daily in the verse, outside of the hacking crap as well. Who knows? If you know and you have answers, please jump in the comments, join the Discord, educate me so I can then share that information with the rest of our community. That's not very many that are left either. My last video got sent out by YouTube's crappy algorithm to a bunch of people that weren't even the core audience. And yeah, it performed horrifically. 38 people, maybe 40 people from the subscribers in this channel's community got to watch the video, and they all liked it. And guys, thank you so much for those of you that liked the video. It was obviously very specifically aimed at a very specific audience, to pick up arms and fight back against the cheating issue. That seems to have quietened down quite considerably since. Maybe hopefully that pressure that I first brought to attention to everyone's eyes, that everyone piggybacked on, geez, that was horrific, that they're on notice. And if they're going to cheat, do it quietly, don't affect other players, because if you do, the shit's going to hit the fan for you, get banned straight away now. I've put so much pressure on CIG that they are still reeling from it. The reason why they took such a quick, reactive, knee-jerk reaction is because of the massive shitstorm I started with the first cheating video before the massive hack video. Yeah, I've got correspondence and emails, etc. I've told you this already. Tickets on CIG as well. Hopefully, people power can still win, but guys, I see why you're disconnecting. I see why you're walking away. I see why, and have experienced why no one gives a shit anymore, because I think a mass majority of you do believe it's going to fail now. I'm not in that boat on either side of the paddles, right? I'm standing there on the shoreline seeing what happens. And I have to, because one, I'm a YouTuber. Two, I really want this to make it. I don't want to see this crash and burn and then have to get an international solicitor involved and do a group action and get everyone refunds for a compensation scheme and all that crap. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that goes, thank fucking God I was wrong. Thank God. Hallelujah, right? I'm not even a Christian. But God, in this case, I'll praise whatever if we can get across the line. As I said, Squadron 42, it should be in the bag. Fingers crossed. Star Citizen, on the other hand, I'm just really no longer in any way sure about. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching the video. And also, chuck in a like, chuck in a sub, guys. We need to keep growing to get these words out. This video, by the way, was also recommended by someone in the comments section of the most recent video prior to this one. So thank you very much to you for coming up with this concept and idea of discussion. I hope that it's been informative. It's using actual, people at CIG, not my personal opinion in any way. It's just pointing out proof, facts, and evidence, filling in some gaps, and getting the point across. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm CTT, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.